大家好，你们可能已经看到这则新闻了。
你们可能已经看到这则新闻了，育碧已经与腾讯合作。
If I had all day to do this, I'd totally do this bit, but I don't. To all of my Chinese fans who had to listen to that, 对不起, I'm sorry. Ubisoft and Tencent have sold Rainbow Six Siege to themselves. They've started a new studio called Vantage Studios, which is still a subsidiary of Ubisoft. Is this the beginning of the Chinese Siege century? 我们是某一点. So this one's a doozy. This one's a real doozy. I think everybody has made their opinions about Tencent pretty obvious. I don't think any gamer that I know is particularly fond of Tencent. I don't know any Tencent fans. I don't know anybody trying to up their Tencent credit score. Ubisoft is just about as popular as a Democratic Party in the United States right now, so pretty much any kind of association that they have with the corporate rot of the gaming industry, Tencent being an example of it at its peak, is pretty much going to, amplify the level of distaste that people may already have for Ubisoft, however much they do have. If you are not familiar with Tencent other than the extent of big and China and company, Tencent is all of those things, but more specifically, they are a massive holding company with private equity in pretty much every facet of the gaming industry that you can think of. They are big, 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 big. Huge. Huge. Tencent is also responsible for the creation of the Chinese super app. No, I'm not saying that to be facetious. That's actually what they call it. WeChat. WeChat is basically your messaging system, social media, and even a payment system all in one. If you live in China, you have WeChat on your phone, period. That's just kind of how it is. Tencent has a lot of scrutiny, mainly because of one word that starts with an E, equity. Tencent has a shit ton of equity in various North American gaming companies, especially Riot Games. You want to know the reason that people don't trust Riot Vanguard? It's because of Riot's association with Tencent. Now, however, it's important to know that if you're going to be worried about Riot Vanguard because of Riot's association with Tencent, you should be concerned about Ubisoft's association with Tencent as well. Because Tencent has a 49.9% stake with Guillemot Brothers Limited, which is a parent company of Ubisoft. So Tencent very much has a administrative influence with Ubisoft, the company, and by extension, Ubisoft's properties like Rainbow Six Siege. Tencent is a multi-billion with a B dollar company. And anybody who knows anything about money and about finances knows that the difference between millions of dollars and billions of dollars is fucking massive. They have a whole ownership stake in Riot Games, and they have a 34.9% ownership stake in Ubisoft. So it's not nearly as much, but it is quite a lot. Something that I don't think a lot of people know, they have a 16.25% ownership stake in From Software. Good old non-corporate From Software, who would never do a corpo, who would never do a gaming heckin' chungus and hurt my feelings. Yeah. All these companies, all these people making these games, they got to eat and they want to make money. That's just how this business goes. That's the direction of the world is going in. I'm not here to give you a class consciousness lecture, but investments and equity are a financial asset in the gaming industry just like anywhere else. So it really shouldn't shock anybody that the gaming studio that has been dealing with a significant amount of PR problems and reputational hits over the course of, I guess, the better part of 5 years, Ubisoft is struggling to keep things on track to the extent that they would like. A lot of their big player, single player hits are not nearly the cash cows that they used to be. Far Cry is a pretty good example of that. Assassin's Creed had a pretty good showing with Shadows relatively recently, but they need to do that a little bit more often in order to prove to investors that there's a reason to stick around. And Rainbow Six Siege, as anybody who's been following this channel understands, Oh boy, Rainbow Six. It's it's fun. It's a fun game. We all love it. Now, I'm not saying that Ubisoft should have their inherent worth measured by a stock price. For those who care, I'm a socialist now. I think that stocks are just kind of shit, and I want them all to explode. But this is something that we can use to kind of garner public sentiment and confidence in their products. People are very, very hesitant to take a chance on Ubisoft. They're more hesitant to take a chance on Ubisoft than pretty much anybody else. If I were to compare Ubisoft stock to, let's take a look. Let's check out EA. Dude, like what are we? It's not even close. $2? Jesus. Like, bro. Ubisoft was riding high for just a hot second there. Just so happened to coincide with the release of a certain game. Right here around 2016. And then it just kind of... Can't imagine which one. There's a reason that Siege content creators all kind of have their asses on the back of their necks right now. It's because we know that this game is... It's keeping this company together. People don't look at Assassin's Creed the same way they used to. People don't look at Far Cry the same way that they used to. People don't look at Ubisoft's single-player, open-world kind of system or formula the same way that they did, when I got an Xbox One for Christmas when I was in high school. That era is long past us. We can get back to that in certain ways. I think there's signs of life. Assassin's Creed Shadows was a phenomenal game. I loved Assassin's Creed Shadows. That's the closest I feel that game has gotten back to the Assassin's Creed's sort of roots. Ultimately, it's really, really hard to convince somebody to give Ubisoft a chance. So when we get this news, this is a big update from a managerial. So when we look at this news that's being given to us by Ubisoft, from a managerial perspective, this is massive, right? This is something that you as an employee at this company, there's a lot going on. There are a lot of changes that you have to incorporate into your workflow. There's a lot of news coming at you. There's a lot of information coming at you very quickly that you have to process. But somebody like you or me, we can't quantify what that looks like for the final product. We don't know what that's going to look like for the game. It could mean anything. We're not going to be able to really put a pin on it. I don't think we will. But essentially what's happened here is, I think Tencent, looking on the outside in, sees these, Cardinal 3 franchises that are Ubisoft's bread and butter, right? They're the pillars of this company. They are the pillars of this company's reputation, and they're going to be the franchises that you need to not fuck up, because if one of those collapses, it's all downhill from there. And hey, it's a fucking shame what happened to Ghost Recon. I guess we're not going to get a new Ghost Recon for a long time. I guess we're not going to get a new Splinter Cell for, well, I don't even know why I mentioned that. I think we all know the answer to that question. We're not going to get a new Splinter Cell until after this Netflix show is done. We're not going to get a lot of Tom Clancy, really anything new from the looks of it. But as far as I can tell, Tencent seems to have a good idea of the pulse of where the money is going. Otherwise, they wouldn't be as financially lucrative, isn't even the appropriate word for it. They wouldn't be making the kind of money that they are. So what they've done is they've created a secondary studio that is still under the discretion of Ubisoft, but it's basically I don't know if it's a new company. I don't believe so. Some of the specifics in terms of the finances are understandably not public, but Vantage Studios, for all intents and purposes, is kind of just Ubisoft 2. It's a new name. It's a big direction change. It is, I don't know how much, they're going to put into like new branding, new, is there going to be like a new splash screen when you open up Siege now? I don't know. All I know is that they're basically consolidating. They're taking staff, they're taking assets, and they're taking money, and they're consolidating it into a completely separate environment with Tencent backing, as far as I can understand, as far as I can tell. They don't really talk about Tencent here in this press release for reasons that elude me. I'm kidding. Vantage Studios represents a first step in Ubisoft's ongoing transformation, with plans to set up additional creative houses and groups its brands and franchises under the banner of a shared DNA and development expertise. So this is a managerial update. You know, you or me, we're not going to see the effects of this for years, and we might not even be able to point them out when they take place. Interestingly enough, it looks like a brother, I believe a brother of Ubisoft CEO Yves Guillemot, Charlie Guillemot, is going to be in charge of this, along with somebody else, Christophe Duren. I think I'm saying that right. But yeah, that's the power of the Guillemot brothers. These guys are huge, right? Like, Ubisoft is their baby. This is their thing, and they are very, very heavily intertwined into the executive decision-making of the Ubisoft matrix, if you will. So I don't know what the hell this is going to mean for the game. I really don't. I don't know if it coincides with the big statement that they made the other day, the one that I did a video about yesterday. I'm sure that there's a lot going on inside the building. Do I work at a game dev? No, I don't. So I can only say so much. But long story short, if you thought that Tencent, showing up and incorporating themselves into Ubisoft's functionality, into their decision-making process to an extent, whatever that may be. If you thought that Tencent showing up was going to, have this like radically obvious set of changes, I'm afraid that's just not how this works. That's not how this business works. It's all money. It's all people talking in a room. It's all people telling people to make a decision or to do a thing. And then a lot of the time, all we can do is assume. All we can do is assume what the hell that looks like for the final product on the cutting room floor. For some companies like From Software, which I mentioned earlier, that have like a 16.25 ownership stake relationship with Tencent, you probably don't even really notice it. Because Elden Ring was a phenomenal game. You don't really see the Tencent-isms. In fact, if you were to talk to a lot of bro gamers that make a lot of money bitching and moaning about the culture war and, obviously associate the Tencent thing, as a lot of conservative rightoids do, with, topics that don't really have anything to do with money or don't really have anything to do with this, the so-called corporate rot that they dislike. They just don't like that it's happening to them. They probably don't even know that Tencent has an association with From Software, but they'll never let you hear the end of it that they have an association with Ubisoft or that they own Riot Games, practically. They'll never shut the fuck up about it. But they probably don't even know the extent to how big Tencent is. That's how big the Tencent ocean is. We're all just fish, and we're all just swimming in it. I mentioned that I'm a socialist now earlier. There's a famous lefty saying, there's no such thing as ethical consumption under capitalism. There's no ethical gaming under gamingism. It's all fucking fucked up. It's all just a bunch of these different investors and people that are completely separated from the actual ground game and the artistry that it takes to make a game, the technical and artistic combinations of skill sets that are required to make a game. People are completely fucking removed for it. It's people that couldn't make it in the oil industry, so they, buy a stake in a video game company and they think that they're a fucking hot shot. And in reality, it's often just the dregs of the capitalist class who couldn't make it on Wall Street and decided to, take the next best thing. Make no mistake about it, Tencent is the big fish here. Tencent is the company that stands to benefit the most, and they also stand to cut their losses the moment that they see something that isn't going the way that they would like. So these guys are sharks. They're powerful, influential sharks that can make or break your company. But if Ubisoft doesn't get their shit together, it's very scary. It's very scary, I imagine, for a lot of people in that building right now. And I wish them all the best. I wish everybody on the Siege team the best of luck. And if any gamer bro gives you shit because you play League of Legends or you're excited about the new League of Legends fighting game or you like the recent Assassin's Creed, and the reason that they give is, oh, those guys are associated with fucking Tencent, right? Congratulations. You just encountered the gaming equivalent of the, you have an iPhone, right? That's the gaming version of that argument. So do with that what you want. I didn't mean to hit the desk that hard. Damn! Yeah, I'm still hitting the gym. Speaking of which, I gotta hit the gym because it closes soon. Thank you for watching this video. If you guys want to see more class crash outs over fucking Rainbow Six gaming, good luck, Ubi. Good luck. Deuces.